Hello there, good evening and welcome. This is Abuja Dispatch, and for those that are joining us for the first time, this is a platform that we have created to bring to your living rooms those events, issues, and indeed those characters that have shaped the entire landscape of the federal capital city Abuja in the last 1 week. Adeboye Garobodo is my name. Let's start off with those stories that made up our news headlines in the outgoing week.
The presidency has continued to express worry by reports of non-compliance with the just-signed executive order that makes mask wearing and observation of social distancing in the public mandatory, appealing to Nigerians to give their maximum cooperation for success of the policy. President Muhammadu Buhari introduced the order with the best of intentions and not with any motive to punish citizens. The presidency appeals to state governments, traditional rulers, and religious leaders to play active roles in the sensitization and enforcement of the executive order. To achieve this, COVID-19 task forces and committees should persuade members of the public to cooperate with the government in achieving compliance and avoid crude methods that may create resistance and resentment, thereby defeating the primary goal of the executive order. The Federal Executive Council has approved the establishment of 20 additional private universities in the country. The council, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari at the Presidential Villa Abuja, reached the decision based on a memo presented before it by the Minister of Education, Adamu. 9 of the private universities are located in North Central, 3 in the South-South, 2 in the Southeast, 5 of them in the Northwest, and 1 in the Southwest. The minister, who briefed correspondents after the meeting, said the approved universities will get their provisional licenses from the National Universities Commission and will be watched for the next 3 years to see how they progress. Now, the Federal Ministry of Education has announced a $20 million global partnership on education grant to improve inequalities and access to quality learning in the education sector. The Minister of Education, Malam Adamu, announced this at the launch of the implementation of the Global Partnership on Education in Abuja. The minister said the grant would focus on strategic actions that are key to improving the education architecture in 3 northern states of Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe. He stressed that a total of 200,000 conflict-affected children, including those with special needs, will be provided with critical life skills and psychosocial support, and 28,000 teachers will be supported to acquire requisite teaching qualifications.
Welcome back. Are you aware that in every 5 out-of-school children the world over, 1 of them is a Nigerian child? The United Nations Children Fund UNICEF has it that 10 million out-of-school children in Nigeria can be found just in 10 states. The federal government seems to be concerned with this trend as it recently inaugurated a steering committee to deploy a national plan to address the issue of out-of-school children in the country. This is the crux of our next segment, Dateline. Join us again.
Even though primary education is officially free and compulsory, about 10.5 million of the country's children aged 5 to 14 years are not in school. Only 61% of 6 to 11 years old regularly attend primary school, and only 35.6% of children aged 36 to 59 months receive early education.
What it shows is that the country, as it were, may be joking with its future, because the future of any country rests on the children, because there are people to take over from the present crop of leaders.
The universal basic education policy, or which is even an act, criminalizes parents for not taking their children to school. How many parents have been arrested and taken to court, actively prosecuted for not enrolling their children in schools?
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari recently directed the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development to coordinate and lead the deployment of a national plan to address the issue of out-of-school children in the country. Inaugurating the 18-member Presidential Steering Committee on Alternate School Program, co-chaired by Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Education, the President said it was unacceptable to see children abandoning formal school to engage in menial jobs and child labor in markets, streets, and workshops. President Buhari further said that the national plan to be deployed by the federal government through the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry would ensure a holistic and comprehensive inclusiveness of appropriate basic education for vulnerable children.
While we continue to sustain our efforts on providing formal and conventional education through the activities of the Universal Basic Education Commission under the Federal Ministry of Education, it is still a common sight to notice children abandoning formal school to become apprentices in shops, workshops, and markets, whilst many others choose to loiter at markets, become cart pushers, and hawkers. These all are not acceptable.
In the north of the country, the picture is even bleaker, with a net attendance rate of 53%. Getting out of school children back into education poses a massive challenge. Issues like geography and poverty is an important factor in the pattern of educational marginalization. States in the Northeast and Northwest have female primary net attendance rate of 47.7% and 47.3% respectively, meaning that more than half of the girls are not in school.
By integrating basic education with religious education and vocational training, the alternate school program will increase access to education without altering social norms and cultures. Consequently, every child, including those in the most peculiar of circumstances, will have access to learning opportunities.
The education deprivation across the country is driven by various factors, including economic barriers and social cultural norms and practices that discourage attendance in formal education, especially for girls. Ensuring education provision in predominantly rural areas and the impact of insurgency in the Northeast presents significant challenges. UNICEF and other international agencies have evolved education program to support the government in achieving Sustainable Development Goals number 4 by 2030 through improving planning and by addressing some of the systematic barriers that hinders the implementation of an effective education strategy. These programs advocate for education to be prioritized and targets children who are least likely to receive an education. The expected outcome of programs is that all children access and complete quality education within a safe learning environment, gaining the skills and knowledge for lifelong learning. These intervention drives will be achieved by creating an enabling environment for education, improving the quality of education, increasing demand for education, and humanitarian assistance.
More than 10 million children in Nigeria are not able to access this right. The weight Nigeria carries in the world, if Nigeria cannot address the issue of out-of-school children, the world cannot address the issue of out-of-school children. That's the importance of Nigeria.
Other suggestions include that the education system at federal and state levels are strengthening capacities to deliver quality basic education. More teachers must have core knowledge and competencies to use proven teaching methodologies to deliver appropriate quality education. Parents and communities need to have improved knowledge and commitment to contribute to enrolling children at the right age in safe and protective school environments. And finally, children in humanitarian situations must have timely and sustained access to quality education services. In no time, the out-of-school children time bomb will be deactivated for a greater tomorrow for generations yet unborn.
Thanks for staying tuned. In the next segment, Split Views, we shift our attention to the Federal Parliament with a view to closing up with one of the key committees that pilot the interface of the National Assembly with the general public. In this episode, we take up Senator Opeyemi Bamidele, who represents Ekiti Central Senatorial District, as he opens up on core topical issues relating to the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters. Watch this. Welcome to the split view segment of our program Abuja Dispatch. And on this segment tonight, we are having the pleasure of welcoming to our studio the Chairman, Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, and Senator representing the Ekiti Central Senatorial District, Senator Michael Opoyemi Bamidele. You are welcome to our program, sir.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Now, Senate Committee on Judiciary, Legal Matters, and Human Rights. What's it all about?
Well, it is one of the committees of the 9th Senate, specifically dedicated to attending to matters of oversight and overseeing the continued establishment, enactment, and amendment of laws relating to matters that have to do with the judicial arm of government, as well as the justice sector, especially the Federal Ministry of Justice and the human rights community. So basically, the committee's oversight functions cover the whole judicial arm of government, the Federal Ministry of Justice and the agencies under the Federal Ministry of Justice, as well as the National Human Rights Commission and other matters relating to the human rights community in Nigeria.
Now, since your assumption of this office, how will you describe the terrain? As in, what are those basic highlights of your activities so far?
Well, it's been quite interesting. We have been involved, entirely in 3 different areas. One, like I said, in the area of oversighting the judiciary. And for us, there's a need for very fundamental reforms in the judicial sector of our country. And part of what we also concluded from early enough is the fact that, yes, much as we need judicial reforms in this country, you are not going to be sitting down in the Senate or in the National Assembly to carry out reforms without involving the stakeholders, in the judiciary. So we have had to engage a lot with the various stakeholders, from my Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, to the presiding justices of the Court of Appeal and other appellate courts, like the Customary Court of Appeal, the Sharia Court of Appeal, and other related courts. We also have been engaged, with the various judicial bodies, including the National Judicial Council, and the offices of the chief registrars of the various courts, from the Supreme Court through the Court of Appeal to the Federal High Court, the National Industrial Court and the other courts, federal courts. And through all of these engagements, we have been able to, take some major steps, which I believe by the grace of God, in the next few months, we yield a lot of results. We also, as a committee, had worked so hard in ensuring, a speedy passage, of the 2020 budget, of the judicial sector. Of course, along with working with other committees to pass the entire budget for the nation, which we all felt, ought to be done speedily to at least break the jinx, of what had been happening in the past, where the nation will probably not have a budget, an annual budget, until sometime around June or July. We were able to pass the 2020 budget in December of last year, and it was passed into law speedily by Mr. President in such a way that it took effect from January of 2020. This is tremendously affecting the activities, of different sectors, including the judicial sector. And beyond all of this, I also want to say that we have been working very closely with the Federal Ministry of Justice, through the Office of the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice of the Federation, and of course the Office of the Solicitor General and other agencies that operate under the purview of the Federal Ministry of Justice. And we are all resolved to actually be able to carry out the necessary reforms that the nation needs, in this sector. Because our intention at the end of the day is to be able to grow a democracy that is founded on rule of law. And a democracy that is founded in rule of law, of course, would take both the judicial arm as well as the justice sector very seriously. So we have no doubt that this is a very crucial assignment that we have on our hands in this committee. And we've been working with the human rights community as well, especially through the National Human Rights Commission, which is a government agency, but government only to the extent that it was established by government and partly funded by government. But it's a commission that works more largely, with the human rights community at home and abroad.
When you talk about engagement with the public, because legal matters, constitution, human rights issues are more or less at the purview even of the public. How has been your interface with the Nigerian people? What has been your take home from your interface with them so far? We know of public hearings and all that. Yeah. What has been the way, their own perception?
I'll put it this way. It's for us to do what we have to do. It's for us to ensure that we are guided by overriding public interest in whatever we do. How you are perceived by the public sometimes is what you have little or no control over. You can only hope and pray, that you are in the good book of the public when you do it. But once you set a standard for yourself, it will be easier for you to deal with. We have set for ourselves a standard of overriding public interest as a driving force. We have set for ourselves the standard of compliance with global best practice, So, if that is the standard, then we are not guided by individual idiosyncrasies or we are not guided by emotions or peculiar interests, of any individual or group of individuals. But we are guided by that standard of ensuring doing what is in overriding public interest and what is consistent with global best practice standard. And I think to a very large extent, that has all really helped, our work in trying to ensure, that we deviate, from the conventional way of doing things some of the time. And part of the areas we have been able to have a lot of interface and engagement with the public directly is in the area of the public hearings that we have been organizing to ensure further legislative action with respect to bills that are consistently, from time to time referred to us from the plenary session, of the Nigerian Senate. And engaging with the public through public hearing has been very instructive, has been very, very engaging on its own, if I can repeat that word. And it's been able to also shape on our own decisions, because the truth about it is there's no Senate bill. There's no bill that is so special that it carries, the sympathy or support or sponsorship of all the 109 members of Senate. Every bill, either as an executive bill or a private member bill, is subjected to the procedure, the standard procedure of the bill passing through the first reading of course, the second reading and being referred to the relevant committees to organize public hearing. Yeah. And then, of course, the third reading and, eventually a bill is passed and it still has to go to the other arm of the National Assembly, which is the House of Representatives, for concurrence before it goes to Mr. President for assent. So essentially, every bill will have to pass through a standard parliamentary procedure. And it's for us to ensure compliance with such parliamentary procedure. And that's why sometimes it's kind of strange, when some members of public criticize senators over some bills because they pass through the first reading. I mean, for the purpose of trying to make the public to continue to understand the process of legislation that we're involved in, it's important that I further stress again that every bill, is deserving of a first reading. Any bill that is introduced in Parliament must go through that stage of first reading. It does not mean at that point that it has attracted the support, of the senators or the honorable members. We have had public hearing on some bills that generated a lot of controversy, but it was important for participants, especially members of the civil society, to understand that this bill generated as much controversy among senators themselves. Senators were as divided as members of public were, at the public hearing. But it's important that people don't assume that because a bill passes the stage of first reading, that bill has enjoyed the support of the Senate and they begin to condemn the entire Senate or condemn the entire National Assembly.
Senator Okoyemi Bamidele is the chairman, Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters. Thank you for coming to the program, sir.
Really, my pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Everybody must just come to the table and discuss and come to an amicable resolution, which I'm sure we will. I don't think any ethnic group should lord it over any ethnic group. The Southwest should not lord it over the North. The Northwest should not lord it over the South. We should respect each other's trade, geographical space, history, culture. And more importantly, the issue of crime, murder, all those things should be completely jettisoned. But the important thing is that we all need to sit down on the table and discuss this matter and look for a way forward. And I think everybody is ready to do that. Solutions will come from talking. And I believe now that we're about to start work on Tuesday, I know these issues will come up. And legislation, adequate and proper legislation that will address the issue frontally and in the best interest of the country and all nations.
That is our package tonight on Abuja Dispatch. For further information, suggestions, and marketing details, you can reach us out on our various social media platforms. It is our hope tonight that you enjoy our package on Abuja Dispatch. For another refreshing episode, join us a week from now, same time, same station. Adegboyega Arogbodo is my name. Have a good night.